Yeah, hi. Uh, in today's video, we are going to discuss about the implementation approach for GDPR, that is General Data Protection Regulation, and ISO 27701, that is for the Privacy Information Management System, PIMS. So today we are going to discuss about approach, how we can implement GDPR within the organization and what would be our approach to implement ISO 27701 within the organization. The first approach, when we talk about or we can say the first step, what we need to take is to prepare the inventory of our processes, or you can say inventory of our processes or tools or technology which process the personal information. The first thing, what we need to first, we need to understand whether our processes or you can say our tools or technology which we are using processes the personal data. What does this processes means? If we are collecting any data, if we are collecting any personal data, personal information, if we are storing any personal information, or if we are using any personal information, or we are sharing any personal information. So all these things collectively called as the processing. The question comes here, what actually the personal data is. So in my previous videos also, I have uploaded uh, what is the personal data itself, to whom we are calling it as a personal data. The personal data means, I will also give you the link related to the personal data video which I have uploaded. The personal data is the personal identifier, you can say, which can identify a personal. In GDPR, it is called as the personal data. Now, data subject, whose data is being collected, is called as the data subject. The personal data which can identify a person, that data is called as the personal data, like your identification number, location related data, your name, your phone number, your phone number, your social security number, your Aadhaar card related data, your Aadhaar related data, or your age, your gender. So these are the things comes under the personal data. The first we n- the In the first step, what we need to do, we need to create the inventory of the processes that has the personal information, or that processes the personal information. The first thing in the first step, we need to identify, you can say, we need to identify the processes which are processing the personal information. The second step, you can say, in the second step, we need to create a inventory, or we need to create a map, a data flow diagram. We can say we need to create, in the second step, we need to create a inventory or data map. What this data map or data flow diagram we need to prepare? Data flow diagram. How the data is being flowed from the collection to the disposal. There is a life cycle of data or data flow. You collect the information, you process the information, and accordingly you dispose the information. So this is the data flow. The first we need to see what are the channels to whom I am collecting the data. The channels, you need to identify the channels from where you are collecting the data, channels where you are collecting the data, and after the collecting of the data, to which tools you are doing the entry, what are the tools and software you are using to collect that data, and to whom you are sharing those data. You are sharing those data, to whom you are sharing your data, and after the sharing, how you are disposing those data. So you need to create a data flow diagram, ki how the data is being flowed, or you can say how the data is being captured The full life cycle of the data mapping we need to have. The second step, we need to conduct a we need to conduct a data privacy impact assessment, data protection impact assessment, that is called as the DPIA. We need to do a DPIA as per Article 35 GDPR. We we need to conduct a DPIA, that is called as data protection impact assessment. Someone is calling it as a PRA, that is called as the privacy risk assessment. Someone is calling it a privacy risk assessment, privacy impact assessment. The name are the same: PRA, PIA, DPIA, DPIA. These all the terms are the same. So we need not to be confused. In the second step, we need to conduct a DPIA, that is called as data protection impact assessment. That is actually a risk in the IT security, IT system, or ISO 27001. What we are doing, we are doing the risk assessment. We are doing the risk assessment. In the same way, if you are capturing any personal data, if you are collecting any personal information, or if you are processing any personal information, you need to conduct a data protection impact assessment. How the DPI would be conducted, I do have another video. I have created and uploaded a video, uh, how to conduct the DPIA. I will also give the link in the description. You can go to that link and see how the DPIA would be conducted. So in the second step, we need to create an inventory map, a data flow diagram, or we need to conduct the data privacy impact assessment. Now in the third step, we need to collect a consent. Now we need to collect a consent from the data subject to whom you are collecting your data. Consent should be collected in the plain language, and this consent should be freely given. So you need to collect a consent from the users before collecting any personal information. The consent mechanism we need to implement within the organization by taking any personal information, by collecting any personal information. The next step would be consent. There are certain regulations are there before taking the consent. Consent should be taken in the plain language. Consent should be freely given. There should be there are several rights of the users. Users, we need to also respect those rights, that by user can withdraw their consent. We need to give a mechanism to the users also, that user withdraw their consent over the period of time if they want to separate, or when they want they want that their data should not be processed anymore. The next rights are related to the rights related to the data subjects. So there are, from Article 12 to 23, there are several rights has been given to the users, like right of access, right of correction, rights of rectification, right of data portability, and right of erasure. Right of access means you need to give them a right access to when the users want to access their data. You need to give them a process, then how the user will get access. In the same way, users do have also rights to for data correction. If they want to uh, get corrected their data what they have given to you, in that case right of correction they can use. Right of rectification is also also needs to be provided to the user. Right of data portability, if the users want to port their data from one organization to another organization, then this thing should be there. And right of erasure, if they want that their data should not uh, be with you anymore, in that case right of erasure should be there. So we need to give them a structure so that people or people, or you can say data subjects, can ascertain their rights. So this would be our fourth step, from where the users can able we need to give them a process so that user may able to get their rights ascertained. The next step, process by which you risk the next step would be that process by which you risk assess your own data, because uh, there are several risks would be there to the data what you have collected. So you need to give them a process to assess the risk, or you need to conduct a risk assessment. You need to conduct a risk assessment on the data which you have collected. The next step is the data protection agreement. In this data protection agreement, we need to sign a DPA, data protection agreement, if we are sharing any personal information to the third party. If you are sharing any personal information to the sub processor, in that case with the sub processor, we need to sign a DPA, that is called as the data protection agreement. So that data protection agreement would be signed with the vendors, or you can say sub processor. You can sign with the sub processor and ask, and there, by signing this DPA, there would be obligations, technical obligations would be there, or organizational control would be there, कि the vendor should not able to send their data. The data would not be sended, they are not authorized to do any further sub processing. So we need to conduct a DPA. And also in such cases, when we are sharing the data, a border transfer is being happening. In that case also, a DPA should be signed with the vendors or the sub processor to whom we have aligned. The next step is the implementation of access or infosec control, you can say. Because how you are, because you have identified the risk to the data, personal information, what you have gathering, or you are processing. So there should be a infosec controls which needs to be implemented to safeguard those data. The infosec control would be based upon your ISO 27001 or 2, ISO 27001 or 27002 we can use. There are total 114 controls, technical controls are given in the standard ISO 27001. So we can use those control. Apart from this COVID related control, also we can use SOC 2 related controls are there. We can use those controls. NIST related controls are also there. From the NIST framework, we can also use those controls. The thing is that we need to implement the infosec control, or you can say IT related controls. Infosec control means IT related controls to safeguard those data. Here in this step, we need to implement the infosec related control. The next and last is the step 8. In the step 8, what we need to do, we need to create a mechanism within the organization to identify the data breaches and to handle the data breach. The first thing, we need to identify the data breach, and the second thing, we need to handle those data breach. So we need to establish a mechanism within the organization to respond those data breaches, and also to notify the users related to the data breaches. Because nowadays you need to notify your, as per the GDPR, within 72 hours you need to notify your users or your data controller. You need to tell them within 72 hours about the data breach, what are the data breach is breach happened. So this is the very strong control what we need to implement within the organization to fight against the data breach. To fight against the data breach, or you can say we need to implement the controls within the organization to respond those breaches, to communicate those breaches to the data subjects. So these are the 8 controls what we need to implement within the organization to safeguard our data to personal information what we are collecting, and also to comply with GDPR and the PIMS, that is called as ISO 27701. Individually on each of the topic I have prepared the video and uploaded to my channel. You can go and see how we need to handle the data breach, how the DPI should be conducted, how the records of ROPA would be, records of data, records of how the ROPA would be conducted. So I've uploaded all the videos in my channel. You can refer it. So that's all from today's video. Thank you. Bye bye.